All right, let's go. All right, Tim, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, the last time we did our podcast, it was Game 7 that night between Vancouver and Edmonton. And
you know what drives me nuts? Really drives me nuts. Canucks kept stick-handling their way through the defense all through the game, all through the game. Right?
Every power play.
Every power play, that that one that comes and they ended up. They needed goal. They're down 3-0, eh?
Yeah.
And they
now
started
it's panic time.
They start dumping it in.
I know. It was incredible, and they do that. Every team does that. Yeah. But Vancouver, it was especially
it was so obvious that was going on.
And with Tocchet, they knew how to dump it in right.
Oh, they do it. They knew what they were doing.
And then they ended up making it 3-2.
Well, dumping it in and creating havoc. Is that good?
Yeah.
Creating havoc. They got 2 goals.
Yeah. And then your big thing, too, was covering the points.
Oh, boy.
Out of the 5 goals, 4 were from the point.
Yeah. And you know what? It was a funny thing. Is Dennis Potvin had one of the heaviest shots in the thing. We played against him for 3 years, and I didn't even know he had a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he never got a shot away.
No.
Because we had a guy right out there, right on him, and the point...
It's just like even watching the World Tournament yesterday, how they, especially in the big ice, they don't cover the points.
6 inches, 6 feet.
That's
all they needed to do was 6 feet.
Yeah, and they walk in and they just hammer it. But and it was unfortunate. Brock Besner for Vancouver he had a blood clot, so he couldn't play.
Yeah, that's too bad.
That hurt because they had that power play there for a while. So
but they missed him. They missed him.
I got to tell a funny story, Dad. Congratulations to Rick Tocchet. He won Coach of the Year. That seems to be a curse sometimes, though, but he won the Coach of the Year. And you won it in 75, 76, was it? And
I forget what.
And then you gave a speech.
I give a speech. It was a big deal, and Rose was a little mad because Gilbert won the Player of the Year or something, Rod Gilbert.
Right.
And he had his wife there.
Right, because it wasn't the same. It wasn't like it is now.
No, it's not.
It was just like in a banquet hall in Montreal, right?
Well, it was pretty big, and I think it was in New York. I think it was, and I got up and I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say that this here Coach of the Year is much appreciated, and nobody will deserve it more than me." And the players were killing themselves in the back, and the guys looking at one another, and they say, "What did he say?"
Yeah. Anyhow, Harry didn't like it.
Oh no, and Harry, when we come back, and everything's a joke to you, isn't it? Oh well.
So then, Dad, the Oilers went in and they played Dallas, and I got to ask you, Edmonton wins the first game, and Florida wins the first game on the road. They never seem to win the second game. Do the players, are they happy with the split?
You know, there's nothing you can say that bring him back to the first game. He said, all we need is a split here. And if they win the first game, forget it. You can almost bet on that they're not going to win the second game.
And Dad, one of the big heroes for Dallas, Matt Duchene, got 2 goals the first game. And then he ended up getting the double overtime winner against Colorado to put them out. And he told you a funny story a while ago.
Yeah, he sure did. I remember in the prospect game. And we were waiting to go out and get introduced and stuff like that. And he was standing back at me. He says, you know, Mr. Cherry, Coach's Corner saved my grandfather's life. The Coach's Corner was good, but I didn't know it was that good. I said, well, how did he save his life? He says, the cows were moving in the back. Or mooing, I guess.
Yeah, I think his parents, they were dairy farmers.
Yeah, they're dairy farmers. And they're mooing in the back, and my grandmother said to my grandfather, now, listen, go out and settle those cows down. And he said, no, I'm going to wait and see Coach's Corner. And while the Coach's Corner was on, the barn collapsed. and he would have been the end of him. But he said, Coach's Corner saved my grandfather's life.
And they said Coach's Corner was good for nothing. They were saying.
I'm glad Coach's Corner is good for something.
You know, Edmonton's their big guys come through for him. You know, McDavid, Draisaitl.
Peterson didn't.
Nah, Patterson didn't come through from Vancouver, and you know that's the thing that there's.
And how much is he making?
You just signed a $98 million contract, and somebody wrote a question here. Hold on a sec, Dad, before we go. Here's a question from X. It was Jared289. Grapes, it's been a tough year for coaches. There's been 11 coaches fired this season. Imagine 11 coaches fired this season.
They just keep.
So the question, he asked why, but then he says, has the power switched to the players? And I think that's a good question. Has the power switched?
I remember one player saying to a coach, I'll be around here a lot longer than you.
Yeah.
and he was.
He was, right. But like when you were coaching and you know,
the coaches were powerful,
and the GMs were powerful.
Yeah.
But now, like with Patterson, what do you do? You can't bench him. It's going to be tough trading them. It's
nobody will trade him. You'll have to eat some of his contract.
And you know, I'm not picking on Marner, but like Marner holds all the power going into the season with the Leafs because it's a no trade. You know, he can leave without going anywhere.
Why would you want to trade Marner, though? Well, everybody thinks he didn't do well in the playoffs, and they want to, you know, get cap space and all that, and he's going to want a big dough. And if he can't sign them and he leaves, you don't get anything for him. Well,
so I was reading somewhere that they said if Marner doesn't want to waive his no trade, that you could make life miserable for him, but you did that to a couple guys that you didn't want.
Oh, I made Hodge. They made the greatest trade of all time. John Ferguson said I made the greatest trade of all time for Boston Bruins. We traded Kenny Hodge for Rick Middleton. Rick Middleton ended up with 499 goals, I think.
Yeah, he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And then the one guy, though, that you did make life miserable for in Boston was Dallas Smith.
Yeah, Dallas. Well, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, remember? Yeah, and he wanted out, right? Halfway through the season, or 3/4 of the way.
No, he wanted out of Boston. And he ended up going to New York too.
He went to New York too, but didn't Harry kind of ask you?
No, I remember Harry and I was in a practice, and Dallas Smith wasn't there, and I knew where he was. He was up and waiting for Harry, and. But Harry was really mad.
Yeah,
21 games to go. I think it was 21 games to go.
Yeah,
and our main defenseman.
But you didn't what did you do? You just kind of.
Well, I just made life miserable for him. I said, "Tell me, Dallas, you got a big heavy stick. Yeah, I got a big heavy stick. Do you use that stick to score goals? No, because you only got one goal last year. Take people out in front of the net? No. Well, what do you have that big heavy stick for?" I made life miserable for him. Yeah. A coach can make life miserable for a guy.
Well, but again, like, you know, Dallas, he didn't have any power. He had to go to Harry and say, "Get me out," and the whole deal. But
I made life miserable.
I made life miserable for him. But Patterson for Vancouver. He holds all the power. I think the power structure has switched to one of the Stars. They hold all the power.
Well,
and they hold the coach and GM hostage.
What are they supposed to do with Marner? I like him because he comes from Toronto and all that. I wouldn't get rid of him. That's all.
I'd see what Berube can do with him. Berube could get him going.
No, maybe Berube could get him going.
You know, because Marner was unbelievable in junior, and he had a tough coach in Dale Hunter. You know, Dale Hunter. Did suffer fools and stuff. And maybe he needs that. Maybe he needs that.
You'll have it in Berube. I think he had over 500 fights. Or I know he didn't have 500
fights. He
had
had 3,000 penalty minutes. So.
So
did you see that? You know, Shanahan's kind of his boss, right?
Yeah.
Like, did you see they were showing clips of Berube and Shanahan fighting? Yeah. And boy, did Berube ever give it. Shanahan was kind of a rookie then.
Yeah,
right?
he was a rookie.
And boy, did Berube ever give it to him, though. So the caption was Monday morning meeting after a loss in the Toronto Maple Leaf executive office.
Boy, could he ever throw them, eh? You just throw them short.
Oh, yeah. He was really tough.
He was really a tough guy.
And that's the one thing that I said, Dad, like, you would have to think the players, and I don't even know if the word is respect more, but we respect him a little bit more than a guy that hadn't played the game.
In St. Louis, Berube lost a little power.
Yeah. Well, and then Binghamton kind of didn't play
Yeah,
as
in
well as
Binghamton.
he did. Well, he's playing in the World Championships right now and played pretty good. Canada lost yesterday. But again, no matter if it's women's hockey, World Championships, minor midget, NHL, if you run into a hot goalie, there's not much you could do. That Swiss goalie last night was unbelievable.
Show me a good coach, and I'll show you a goaltender.
Dadson, he's taking the day off, but the playoffs are here, and there's never been a better time to bet on your favorite Canadian team. That would be Edmonton with our favorite Canadian sportsbook, NorthStarBets.com. They're proudly Canadian and one of the best places to play in Canada. NorthStarBets.com has everything you're looking for. A sportsbook with built-in betting insights and analysis, slots, live dealer tables, and exceptional customer service. Get into the playoff action right now at NorthStarBets.com, and NorthStarBets.com is not available in Ontario. And the other big series is Rangers-Panthers. They split. That was a split too. Same thing. Florida wins. I don't think Paul Maurice could do anything to get them up for this. Well, they won in overtime. So
there's nothing you can do to save the players. You keep saying, all we need is a split here. If they win the first game, forget the second game because they're not winning the second game.
Yeah. But that Florida, they're a mean club.
They're a mean club, and every time they hit, they mean to hurt. And the Rangers hit back too.
Yeah. So the question is, Dad, you knew Florida as a rough team. You see what they did to Boston. I mean, they knocked Boston around pretty good, and Boston was a big team. And Laviolette, the coach of the Rangers, he didn't dress that 6'7" Rempe in the first game. And, Kachuk's kind of running around, Bennett's kind of running around. And then they dressed him the second game. They won in overtime, but Florida wasn't quite running around like they were before.
They were still hitting. They were still hitting to hurt. And but not quite not like they were the first game.
No. So you had that situation where, you had John Wensink in Rochester.
John Wensink was a real tough guy.
Yeah, he was the toughest guy in the American League at the time, and you knew that just having him on the bench would change.
And he hurt his knee. He stepped on a stick in a fight and twisted his knee, and unbeknownst to me, John Denhammer, who was my assistant coach or assistant general manager, let him go home. And I phoned John. I said, okay, send John down here. He needs a little vacation.
You were in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah,
right?
we were in Jacksonville, Florida. And so I happened to see him out of the corner of my eye. He arrived in time for the game. And we were short a guy. I just put his name in there. Put his name in there.
So at the start of the game, he was in his street clothes.
Yeah, he was in his street clothes. And I said, get dressed, John. He said, what do you mean get dressed? And Jacksonville was knocking us around pretty good. And so he got dressed, and I said, now, let on you want to get on the ice. And so he got dressed. And, well, he says, well, what if I'm not in the lineup? I said, you're in the lineup, believe me. I never forgot that. Game.
Jacksonville kind of settled down.
Oh, did they settle down? Did they settle down? No, he wanted to go on the ice. I said, he's coming out the next shift, and you'll be sorry. And they settled down, believe me.
Well, and that's the one thing, Rempe only played a couple of minutes. First of all, the fans were going crazy when he came on. They were chanting his name and everything like that. And he played a couple of shifts, played well.
I don't understand the National Hockey League. They see a good hit, and a real good hit, and the crowd go crazy. I don't know. Maybe the National Hockey League knows.
Well, yeah, because they'll if they're starting to run around and they're hitting. Yeah. By about the third hit, they call something, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes they just suck the life right out of the game. So, Dad, I don't know. I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier on, but we're watching the World Championships the other day, and Connor Bedard, what a beautiful goal he got in the shootout, but he got creamed into the boards late in the third period. I'll give him full credit. He went in first to get the puck, but just got hammered. he really gets hit hard a lot.
You know why? Because in junior he get hit hard. He get hit just as hard in junior, and he will not. And he's brave little guy, and he goes in that corner first to get that puck all the time.
Yeah, he's different than Marner. Marner has his head on a swivel. I'm not saying Marner's chicken or anything like that, but you're never going to catch Marner because his head's on a swivel.
Yeah.
And Bedard's doesn't seem like that.
Bedard's a little bigger than Marner. He's the smallest guy out there.
You know what I think is going to happen with Bedard a little bit? I think it's kind of what happened with McDavid. And again, it's not knocking McDavid. He used to go hell-bent for leather, crashing that net.
Yeah, he used to cut around the outside and cut it.
He remember the one guy broke his shoulder and then he hurt his knee, and he kind of learned
then the guy said the next year I did it on purpose.
Yeah, because
I would say he did that on purpose. He did that on purpose.
Right. So the guy Connor McDavid went to the net against Philly. And he fell, and the guy kind of rode him into the boards and hurt his shoulder.
Yeah.
And you said he did it on purpose, and boy, you really got it in the paper.
Imagine him saying that it had some trying to hurt somebody. And the guy mentioned it the next year. He said, "I did it on purpose,
and I'm going to do it again.
And I'm going to do it again." And he doesn't do that.
No, he doesn't kind of cut in as much. And I think Bedard's got to learn that a little bit because I mean he's bigger than Marner, but he's really not that big a player.
Yeah.
And this I forget who they're playing, the Swiss guy. He really crunched him. But as I say, I gave him full marks. He was going in the corner.
He goes in the corners. He doesn't care, and you gotta admire him.
You know, watching that World Championship, and you and I went out. We watched Bedard. We watched a few of the guys, and the one guy that I cannot get over how good a player he is, and he gets lost in Buffalo's that Owen Power.
Oh.
He was the best defenseman on the ice,
and they put him in a shootout too.
Yeah, they put him in a shootout, and he almost scored.
Yeah, and he had the guy. Yeah. Only just went a bit too far.
And you and I watched him. I think he played for the Mississauga Reps, and we thought, well, he kind of looked, he was a good player and all like that, but he's one of those guys that...
I never thought he'd be that good in the National Hockey League.
No, he was the best defenseman on Canada or the Swiss.
And he's a big guy, too.
He's a big guy, can handle the puck. But unfortunately, I know we have people listen to Buffalo. He just gets lost in Buffalo, right?
He gets lost in Buffalo. And listen, I tell you one thing. He is a good hockey player.
Like I said, Dad, he gets a little bit lost in Buffalo.
Well, he won't get lost in Buffalo with Lindley Ruff because Lindley Ruff is a good coach. And he's been there before. He's done that before. And he's played before. And he'll turn Buffalo around.